Shalom, shalom. Giving honor and praise to the Most High, the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. My name is Yeshaya Yisrael of the tribe of Dan of the nation of Israel. This is a presentation being brought to you from the congregation Shema Yisrael, based in Brooklyn, New York. Giving due respect to the elder, founder, leader of the congregation, Nasi Prince Zippor, as well as his assistant and son, Nasi Natan El Wagamet Saranu Natan El Mamate Lewi. Brothers and sisters, I want to first off, before we get into this presentation, get into partly the reason why it's done, but partly the reason why I personally have no problem giving homage or respect to people. It's not worshiping any man. That's one thing to be noted for edification purposes. Another matter to bring out, brothers and sisters, is that for myself, when I was sick last summer and I wound up coming back into the congregation here at Shema, I distinctly remember before they knew I walked back into the doors that they was lifting my name up in prayer. I actually heard it live, not like, no disrespect online, so this is something that I wanted to be pointed out for reason and purposes. Okay, so brothers and sisters, we want to sit there and get into this particular teaching and presentation right here. It's not a very long one, but it's a matter that has been brought up to Israelites periodically, and we want to sit there and take the time out now to address it, okay? First off, we do not claim to know everything. And as stated, even in the Hebrew classes here, one is open to constructive criticism. Now, with that said, it is definitely a fact that there is a distinction between constructive criticism and opportunistic speeches. All right? So that's something we want to point out for reason and purposes. The teaching here is called the Israelites on Deuteronomy 28:52 and Deuteronomy 28:68. Let's go there, if we will. Deuteronomy, the 28th chapter, verse 52, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about and the stance that we hold regarding such. And it says this, brothers and sisters. Deuteronomy 28, verse 52. Hallelujah. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fortified walls come down, wherein thou didst trust throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, throughout all thy land which the Lord thy God hath given thee. Now, many people have actually gone to this verse and try to rebuke us as Israelites by saying, see, well, if you look right there, it says right there in verse 52, it says throughout your land. See, the goal of these people, brothers and sisters, in trying to sit there and speak against us, the Israelites, or as they incorrectly call us, the black Israelites, all right, because the computer I'm looking at that's here is black. My skin tone, for those who know me personally, is brown. So we want to sit there and let that be noted for edification purposes. All right. When the European so-called white man does a minstrel show and put black paint on himself, that is actually an insult to people of color. So what does that tell you? Truthfully, if I'm going to draw a brother or paint a brother's image and I'm using the literal color black, I am trying to, at that point, be funny and disrespectful. So though at many times we use the terminology black, we know good and well, brothers and sisters, that is actually a different kind of breakdown and a different kind of meaning. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about for edification purposes. All right, now that's one thing. Secondly, is this, brothers and sisters, when we say that we are the children of Israel, what we are saying to the people who are Jewish, to the people who are Christians, even though it is not our intention, is that their stance is off. That the European Jew that you see in the land of Israel is not the true house of Israel. That Christianity is not the true way. You understand? So when they try to come and attack us, whom they call the black Israelites, they are really just trying to pull for straws, brothers and sisters. All right? So this is something we want to point out. I wanted to stay on the subject matter, but somebody asked, what is the Hebrew for tribe? The Hebrew word for tribe, brother or sister, is the word mate. That's the word for tribe, mate. All right. Some people say shebet, but more so the scriptures uses the word mate in regards to the word for tribe in the scriptures. Now, getting back into the particular subject matter right here. As stated before, when teaching on the same channel, giving glory to the Most High, on Munter, the Roman historian, if you do not worship the Most High God, if you do not call on the God of Moses, if you do not call on the God that David called on, then you cannot properly speak on the word of the Most High. No way, shape, form, or fashion diminishing the authority of the Most High. I cannot, as a person who does not worship Anubis or Anbu or Heru or Horus, I cannot properly sit there and get into the spiritual realm of the ancient Egyptians because I do not believe in their pantheon. I don't worship the Ennead. You understand? So this is something we just want to sit there and get into edification purposes. All right? So, the word for mate is spelled in the Hebrew letters. I don't have the Hebrew letters on here, but it's the letter mem, the letter tet, and the letter hey. If you go to Hebrew lesson number 5 on the playlist, brother or sister, you will begin to see the letter mem, the letter tet, and the letter hey. All right, and that spells mate, which means tribe. All right, so the next thing to get into in this particular regard is this. The argument that is consistently and periodically, I know that may seem funny, by saying consistent and periodic is because there are some who's consistent at it, and then there's some who's periodically at it. You understand? Trying to sit there and attack the Israelites on what we say, know, and understand. Now, what I've noticed over the years, since teaching on Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, online, is that you will be teaching, let's say, for instance, on a different subject, and here comes somebody in the back with a comment about Deuteronomy 28 that has nothing to do with the subject matter. You can be in a place singing songs. You could be in a place talking about relationships and how to better them between husband and wife. Well, y'all Israelites say the Egypt by ships. That's not what we was talking about at that moment. But because it bothers your spirit, you understand? You have to sit there and just get that off your chest. You understand? So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. I remember one discussion, not going to mention nobody's name, but the Israelite brother posted online, okay, on Facebook. And his stance in the post was basically saying, we Israelites focus, no disrespect intended, on the curses we see in Deuteronomy 28 and not the blessings that we can gain out of Deuteronomy 30. That was the stance of the brother's post on Facebook, and everyone seemed to understand what the brother was talking about. That most times in Israel, I remember being in one camp when a newcomer came in, they stopped whatever they was teaching, go straight to Deuteronomy 28. You understand? Which is nothing wrong with that. But what the brother in the post was attempting to state was, instead of just saying, okay, you shall be the tail and not the head. You shall be robbed and punished. You shall have the family to be broke up. His eyes shall be evil against his brother. Why not focus on what to do as the antidote to the conditions of our people? Why not sit up there and get into the remedy and the medicine for our people? That was the point of the brother's post. Don't you know, somebody came in that discussion and said, I know this may be a hard pill for you to swallow, but Deuteronomy 28:68 is not the Atlantic slave trade. What? We wasn't talking about Deuteronomy 28:68, whether it was the Atlantic slave trade or not. We were talking about how we, as those of us laying claim to be the true house of Israel, how we can sit up there and get out of the condition that we are in as a people. Broken families, cannot deny that. First hired, last hired, first fired. Can't deny that. The food in the community, that's bad. Cannot deny that. So we, in the aspect of what? The conditions that we're talking about, the brother was trying to say, how can we have a solution? Not the same old situation when Israelites kind of seem redundant, talking about we under a curse, we under a curse, we under a curse. But because your spirit don't fit with the Israelites in teaching, and you didn't like a particular camp, and you wanted to run away from the Most High in the name of, I'm going to run away from the camp, I don't believe these guys. What you're really doing, brother or sister, is running from Yah. Because see, these words ain't the word of any prince or Cohen. It's the word of Yah Eloheinu, the word of the Most High. So when you're running from the Tanakh to the Talmud, you're running from Yah. When you're running from the Most High to get any other kind of doctrine, you're running not from the camp, you're running from the Most High God. You understand? So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right? So now, lastly, in this teaching of the introduction is this. When we say what we are saying, brothers and sisters, it is to many other people saying that their stance is off. If the so-called black man, woman, and child is the true house of Israel, in part in the West, because all of us know there's many Israelites still over in the East. You understand? Many Israelites are still over in the East. That's not to be denied. By East, I mean Eastern Hemisphere. You understand? So if we are in part the scattered tribes of Israel, then that means the doctrines and the philosophies, let's say, of Judaism and Christianity will not stand. So let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters, to Isaiah chapter 40, so we can gain an understanding from the scriptures and what we're talking about. All right? It says this, the book of Isaiah chapter 40, verse 1. Comfort ye, my people, saith your God. Bid Jerusalem take heart and proclaim unto her that her time of service is accomplished, paid off, that she have received of the Most High's hand double for all her sins. Hark, one calleth, clear ye in the wilderness the way of the Most High. Make plain in the desert a highway for our God. Every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the rugged shall be made level, and the rough places a plain. And the glory of Yah shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of Yah has spoken it. Hark, one saith, proclaim. And he says, what shall I proclaim? All flesh is grass, and all the goodliness thereof is as the flower of the field. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, because the breath of Yah bloweth upon it. Surely the people is grass. The grass withereth, the flower fadeth, but the word of Eloheinu, the word of our God, shall stand forever. All right, so let's look at this right here, brothers and sisters. It says what? Verse 4, every valley shall be lifted up, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the rugged shall be made level, and the rough places a plain, and the glory of the Most High shall be seen. So what are we dealing with in this particular regard, brothers and sisters? All right, it says what? That it shall be made level. All the other doctrines, philosophies, their high places, their mountains, their hills, Yah will bring it down, and the glory of the Most High will be seen, because the glory of the Most High is not in religion. See, and so it says, what shall be proclaimed? That all flesh is grass, and that the word of the Most High stands forever. So now, let's go, if we will, in light of Isaiah chapter 40, and see, in part, what the word of the Most High stated, so we can gain something for edification purposes. All right. Now, the maps we will be speaking of in part. What you're looking at, brothers and sisters, on the left-hand side, all right, is a map of people that was going from the land of Egypt, out from Egypt into where the land of Israel was. And what you're looking at on the right-hand side, all right, is a map of the people going into the land of Egypt. Remember this map because it becomes important that the people walked back and forth between Egypt, which is in northeast Africa, and the land of Israel, which was formerly the land of Canaan. So that's something to be noted. Let's also remember that the terminology called the Middle East, brothers and sisters, was not known in the days of the biblical writings. The terminology called Middle East is something that was created by a guy named General Mahan, Mahan, in the year 1902. You can look that up. General Mahan created that terminology called the Middle East. This is why there's no set language called Middle East. There's no set culture called Middle East. This is why you find people in the Middle East that come from different races, because there's no such thing as a Middle Eastern race. All right, so that's something to be noted for edification purposes. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Thank you. Now, what we're looking at here is a statement that was made to us as Israelites. All right, so let's see what it says. You people are just another forced group in the last days. Deuteronomy 28:52 said the children suffered the wrath of God in the promised land of Canaan, not in Africa. Canaan is not in Africa. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now the Lord has said unto Abram, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. Abraham left his country to go to another, question mark. Then a person goes on to say, from Africa to Africa, question mark. Then goes on to say, now this is, I'm reading verbatim what was stated to us as Israelites. Genesis chapter 15, verse 13. And he said unto Abram, know of a surety that thy seed shall be a stranger in a land that is not theirs, and shall serve them, and they shall afflict them 400 years. Genesis chapter 17, verse 8. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And then the person stops off reading or citing in the Bible, then goes on to say the following. Is the Atlantic Ocean the Red Sea? Since the Hebrews originally crossed the Red Sea in order to leave Egypt, since Native Americans are considered Hebrews by the Israelite movement, and America is supposedly Egypt, are Native Americans considered Native Egyptians? If America is Egypt and the Jews left Egypt, when did blacks originally leave America, parentheses, Egypt? So this is something that was said to us as Israelites. So what we're going to do, brothers and sisters, giving honor and praise to the Most High, is break this down and show the fallacy in such. That's why it's called the rebuke. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Let's read this carefully, brothers and sisters. All right. The person cited what is written on the left-hand side, right? It says this, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. Abraham left his country to go to another, from Africa to Africa. Now that's what the person said. So now let's look on the right-hand side and see the truth of a matter. Africa, we must remember, is not a country, it's a continent. So when the person is citing, brothers and sisters, in the scriptures, at Genesis chapter 12, the terminology called Africa was not known at that particular time in the era of the 2000 something or so BCE. Let that be noted. That's something we pointed out for edification purposes. So you can't jump around and take an ancient terminology land like Canaan and then take a younger terminology such as Egypt and then try to sit there and take a continental terminology called Africa and then sit there and say that Canaan is not in Africa. When you look, brothers and sisters, at the modern map of the Middle East, there's no land in there called Canaan. But if you look at the modern map of the Middle East, there is a land in there called the United Arab Republic, formerly known as the land of Egypt. But we already know that Egypt, the terminology, etymology, goes back to the Greek terminology, Egyptos. So the Hebrews, the Israelites, did not call it that. The people who were called Egyptians did not call themselves that. All right, so this is something we want to point out. So let's look at this definition of a continent. One of the principal land masses of the earth, usually regarded as including Africa, Antarctica, Asia, Australia, Europe, North America, and South America. Now that came from the online dictionary. So let me ask anybody a question. If a person were to go from modern day Tanzania to modern day Madagascar, are they going from Africa to Africa? If they go from modern day Botswana and go to modern day Angola, are they going from Africa to Africa? So this is something I want to sit there and present and ask to the people, because keeping it 1,000, they swear black people don't read. I teach in a college. I have a degree in early childhood education. I'm telling you, they swear up and down, excuse me, niggas don't read. That's the philosophy, that black people are ignorant, black people are illiterate, black people are slothful, and black people are sex mad. These are the perceptions that many other nations and races have concerning our people. So when they can come with something as silly as asking, did they go from Africa to Africa, they're already saying that they don't think you're already intelligent enough to know that Africa is a continent. Did you remember the lady? Forgot her name, that was running with McCain, whatever her name was, and she said like continents like Africa, maybe she didn't know that. Oh, pardon me, she actually said in countries like Africa. This is actually online. All right, the lady that was going to be running for vice president when John McCain was running, right? She said in countries like Africa. There are a lot of people who do not know that even what is referred to as Africa is a landmass called a continent. And within a continent, there's countries. There's many, 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 many who do not know that. So that's something we want to be pointed out for edification purposes. So I ask again, if somebody were to go from modern day Angola to modern day Tanzania, are they going from Africa to Africa? Because we must remember that Africa is a continent. If they are going, brothers and sisters, from modern day Morocco to modern day Algeria, are they going from Africa to Africa? Because see, since the aspect of what happened with the Ptolemies in northern Africa, and then later on with the Arabs in northern Africa, they try to say black people, Africa is sub-Saharan. Even though the ancient Libu or the ancient Libu people that lived in modern day Libya is as black as Samoa the comedian and as Wesley Snipes, the actor. So you can look that up, Libu, the Libu people, and see ancient paintings of them and see what complexion they were if you want to play the color game in that particular regard. And that's in modern day Libya. All right, so that's something we want to point out for edification purposes. Let's go on to the next slide. Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. Now Yah said unto Abraham, get thee out of thy country and from thy kindred and from thy father's house unto a land that I will show thee. All right? Wayomer Yah el Abraham, lech laka me arazaka, umi molat taka, umi bit abika, el haaretz asher areka. Now, the point I wanted to mention is this is from Genesis chapter 12, verse 1. And what you're seeing right there in the red, brothers and sisters, is okay, yeah, that was Sarah Palin. Thank you for typing that in. All right. When you're looking at there in the red, that says Arazakah, which means your country or your land. So they didn't call it terminologies as we see today, such as Asia or Africa. But if you're going to use modern terminologies, let's remember that Africa has not and never has been considered a country. It's a continent. See, maybe the person didn't know or think about that in the emotions and their feelings, and you don't like the Israelites, and the Israelites claim because it bashes Judaism and Christianity, it bashes homosexuality and feminism. So now you got to, I just want to sit there and, yeah. No, you should have thought carefully before you made a comment about the house or toward the house of Israel. Nobody's perfect. You understand? So let's go on, brothers and sisters, into this. And as we already know, that Abraham came from Ur of Chaldees. The land of Chaldea is in southern modern day Iraq. We have to also remember what an anachronism is. And I explained that on this channel in a portion called Shemot, Exodus chapter 1 to verse 5. All right, so this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Next slide, please. The person stance and the truth. Genesis chapter, what you're seeing on the left-hand side is what some people, because this isn't the only person who holds that stance. I'm not going to name no names or whatever like that, because this person represents a conglomerate against the Israelites. All right. Genesis chapter 17, verse 8. And I will give unto thee and to thy seed after thee the land wherein thou art a stranger, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. Is the Atlantic Ocean the Red Sea, since the Hebrews originally crossed the Red Sea in order to leave Egypt? So let's see if the person was thinking. Let's look at the right-hand side that I typed up. In order to leave Egypt, the Hebrews crossed the Reed, not the Red Sea. Many scholars themselves attest to this. It says right here in the book of Exodus, chapter 13, but God led the people about by the way of the wilderness by the Red Sea. And the children of Israel went up armed out of the land of Egypt. The Hebrew says this, Wayaseb Elohim et ha'am, Dedek Hamid bar, Yam Suf, Wakam Mushim, Alu bene Yisrael, Me'eretz Mitzrayim. Now, you look at this, brothers and sisters, and see the red there, Red Sea. We already can comfortably state that that is a mistranslation, because the word red is Edom, not Suf. The Hebrew word you see there, typed there in the red, is Suf, Yam Sea, Suf Reed, R-E-E-D. So it was not the Red Sea, the translation, and the person not perhaps going into the Hebrew, citing the mistranslation, also messed up in their breakdown. So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes, all right? And asking, is the Atlantic Ocean the Red Sea? So you're trying to sit there and trying to wiggle your way around and trying to sit there and get into something, but we're going to sit there and explain the stance, because remember, this is called the rebuke, all right? Somebody was in their feelings, all right? The person's stance and the truth, part 2. Now, what you're seeing on the left-hand side is the person's stance. The truth, furthermore, is on the right-hand side. All right? Since Native Americans are considered Hebrews by the Israelite movement, according to that person, and America is supposedly Egypt, are Native Americans considered Native Egyptians? If America is Egypt and the Jews left Egypt, when did blacks originally leave America, Egypt? Now, going on into the part that I typed. First, not all in the Israelite quote unquote movement consider Native Americans to be Hebrews. There are some Israelites who do, and then there's some Israelites who don't. You need to know which particular camp you're talking about and talking to. That's first. Secondly, going on to say this. Also, Israelites do not consider Egypt to be America. We will explain the matter of Deuteronomy 28, verse 68 soon. Also, nowhere in the Torah does it say Jew or Jews. So when the person is typed up and said, well, the Jews left Egypt, the book of Exodus doesn't mention nothing about a Jew. This is why getting into meticulous aspect is important. It said the children of Israel went up harnessed out of the land of Egypt. You couldn't just type in the Israelites. And I noticed something also with the Kemetic community with certain things too. The African Hebrews, which you don't like the word Israelite, that bothers you or something. It's just like when somebody, no disrespect intended, who consider themselves to be messianic, try to say, oh, all you get out of Shema is a bunch of hallelujahs. We are saying praise Yah on the Shabbat. Who else are we supposed to praise on the Shabbat and say hallelujah to who? Who are telling the people to praise on the Shabbat? See, you should have thought about that before you mock the Most High. All right? So let's go on to the next slide. Thank you. Summation on the matter. This was not a lengthy presentation, however, just for edification purposes. It was done to shed light on the subject. First, the person did not distinguish between a country and a continent. Then attempted to state that Abram went from Africa to Africa, perhaps. The truth is, Abram left from Ur of Chaldees, which is in southern Iraq, and migrated to Canaan. The portion of Deuteronomy 28:52 is after verse 45, and each read as follows. Let's go, brothers and sisters. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Let's go to the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 28, verse 52, and let's reread that. All right, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Because one of the things with Judaism is that they teach that the tribes of the northern kingdom will not come back to the land. See, Talmudic and Judaic teachings do not have the same wording that Ezekiel 47 and the 48 have. So now let's go to Deuteronomy chapter 28, and let's start in verse 52. And it says this again. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, until thy high and fortified walls come down, wherein thou didst trust throughout all thy land. And he shall besiege thee in all thy gates, throughout all thy land, which Yah thy God hath given thee. So let's see and go to verse 45. And it says this. And all these curses shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee and overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou didst not hearken unto the voice of Yah thy God, to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. So it says what? All these curses shall pursue and overtake thee. So what curses are we talking about? We're talking about the curses of Deuteronomy 28. But what the genre of people who are against, who they call the black, truly the Israelites, is that we supposedly don't talk on verse 52 because it says in your land. But we're going to show what the scriptures is talking about when it says throughout all thy land and what happened with the people. Let's go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 62, which is after verse 52. And it says this, because this is the verses they don't go to. And you shall be left few in number, whereas ye was as the stars of heaven for multitude, because you did not hearken to the voice of Yah your power. And it shall come to pass that as Yah rejoiced over you to do you good and to multiply you, so Yah will rejoice over you to cause you to perish and to destroy you. And you shall be plucked from off the land, whether thou goest in to possess it. So let's take verse 62 again and see what it says. And you shall be left few in number. Let's remember that. Now, let's go to 63. And it shall come to pass that as the Most High rejoice over you to do you good and to multiply you, so Yah will rejoice over you to cause you to perish. The Hebrew word abad, which means to be lost, and to destroy you. The Hebrew word hashmad, which means to be devastated. And you shall be plucked from off the land, whether thou goest in to possess it. So the Israelites and the curses that Deuteronomy 28 talks about doesn't stop at verse 52, because see, the argument that the person and many others attempt to give against us, who they call the black, truly the Israelites, is well, in verse 52 it says throughout all your land. And see, in 70 AD, right, Titus came in. Yeah, but you forgot the part that says you shall be plucked from your land, whether you go in to possess. So let's see what the Most High said in the word, like the word we said does not die in Isaiah chapter 40. Let's see what the continued word says in Deuteronomy 28, verse 64. It says this, and the Most High shall scatter thee among all peoples, from the one end of the earth even to the other end of the earth. That's how you know you got Israelites east, west, north, and south. And there thou shalt serve other gods, which thou hast not known, which means everything considered God is not Yah. Okay? And it says this, which thou hast not known. Thou know thy fathers. The person spoke about Abraham. I don't know who that person is and what God they call on, but let's go on. And it says this, even wood and stone. So the Jewish man was saying, Lo shabarnu haTorah. We didn't break the laws. We've always kept the ways of Hashem. Then you can't be the people that the Most High said in his word to the prophet Moses. Because he said, Israel will sit there and bow down to other gods, and my anger shall wax hot against Israel, and many evils and troubles shall overtake Israel. So if you can't claim, Jewish man, the troubles and the evils that we, the so-called blacks, are claiming in our history, showing our legacy, unfortunately, through the curses of Deuteronomy 28, then you can't talk in the matter. See, what it is, Judaism, which is a religion, can only stand when the true knowledge of the true Israelites is not known. I want this to be noted for edification purposes. Christianity and Judaism is fighting alongside each other against who they call the black, incorrectly called black, but the true Israelites. We, the Bnei Yisrael, us here in the Western Hemisphere, is a threat and a thorn in their side. So that way that could be noted for edification purposes. The reason why they keep on trying to formulate, we want to debate this Israelite, and we're going to look at this person's channel, and we're going to create fake YouTube channels, and we'll sit there and pose as somebody else. You got to be out your mind on a weekend to sit there and create a fake YouTube channel because you ain't got nothing else to go on in your day. I'm courting with a sister, and I love taking advice from my elders. You know what I was doing this so-called Sunday? I was courting with the sister, and her and I went out. Obviously, the people who want to sit there and play troll in our channels don't have a sister to court with. See, you got too much time on your hands. So this is something we want to sit there and point out for edification purposes. You forgot that verse 65 says this, and among these nations you shall have no repose. So if Deuteronomy 28, verse 65 is saying among these nations, then how can some say Deuteronomy 28 from verse 48 to verse 68 is only about the Israelites and the Romans when this says among these nations, plural? See? It says what? Among these nations. So the awakening of our people, the true house of Israel, is something that they did not expect to happen. I'm telling you, when I was in college and was speaking Hebrew, the questions are always, why do you speak Hebrew? The brother who spoke Arabic wasn't asked that. The brother who actually, believe it or not, spoke Portuguese, he wasn't asked that. The brother in college who actually spoke a little bit, not deep, but no disrespect about his knowledge, a little bit of Mandarin that he studied in high school, that brother wasn't asked that. The brother who spoke Portuguese, he was from Brazil. He wasn't asked why he spoke Portuguese. But the black man coming out of Flatbush, Brooklyn on Nostrand Avenue, he was asked, why do you speak Hebrew? Why do you speak Hebrew? I was asked that in City College, which is in Manhattan off of 137th Street. I was asked that in Green Acres Mall, which is over by Sunrise Highway in Nassau County, Long Island. There were several places I was at. In other words, nigga, who told, what? You wasn't, what? Because they expect you to not know. That's why you can't be friends with everybody. A friend is not one who hopes you remain ignorant. A friend is not one who acts, you know about that? You know who acts like that? Me, when I was a child, when I found out, my mother found out I cut school. How you know? I know the teacher didn't call, I checked the mail. They ain't no letter come in. No. She happened to see somebody who worked in the school and said, Miss, I'm not going to mention the government, your son wasn't in school. Oh, he wasn't? Oh, okay. Let me see how long my son, in this case being myself, continues this lie about being in school. Yeah, the homework was done. Everything was cool. Let me see your schoolwork, huh? Your schoolwork. You did the homework. So that means you have schoolwork. You didn't go to school on Tuesday, did you? Huh? See, I already heard clearly, but because I know I was trying to prolong my lie, you understand? So this is something we want to sit there to get into, brothers and sisters. When I was a child and I had cut school in junior high school, I tried to sit there and continue that lie that I was in there by giving some kind of homework. Here's the homework. But the homework wasn't right because you wasn't in school to get the schoolwork in order to get the correct homework. So that's the Jewish man. He was me cutting school, then giving up fake homework assignment. You come with your 7 no-hot laws instead of telling people to keep the commandments of the Most High. You come in with some kind of tokenism aspect because you try to cover up for your thing. And so now when it's exposed, like I got exposed about cutting school, now it's a thing like I'm upset, you know what I'm saying, with the person who told my mother. You understand? Why my mother had to run to that person. The Most High let that happen. The Most High let my mother meet that person that time to sit there and say, Miss such and such, your son wasn't in school. And it's the Most High, the same God who opened the eyes of the so-called black man, woman, and child to know that we are the true house of Israel. All right? So this is something we want to just know for understanding purposes. All right? Just as the Most High exposes the so-called Jewish man, so does the Most High expose the wicked Israelites. So you can't hide behind your friends as Ak and Akot, because some Israelites, and I say this not to take shots at anyone, you out of your mind as an Israelite if you already see that the Most High opened up the eyes of our people to this truth, and you think you're going to come in this truth and play games, you done lost your mind. I state again, if you know that the Most High awoken his people to this truth, and you think being his people gives you an advantage to play games with the Most High, you done lost your mind. The Jewish man couldn't play with this, but for so long before the Most High pulled his skirt. So this is something we want to talk about for edification purposes. All right? It says this, Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And let's read it. It says this, and Yah shall bring thee back into Egypt in ships, by the way whereof I said unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall sell yourselves unto your enemies for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. So let's go back to this first slide. See the people walking back and forth, even in the map. Abraham went to Egypt. Jacob went to Egypt. Joseph was sold and he went into Egypt. The brothers of Joseph went into Egypt. Uriah the prophet in the time of Jeremiah went to Egypt. Jeremiah was carried into Egypt. Then on the opposite side, Ramses the second went into the land of Canaan. Seti the first went into the land of Canaan. Pickcocked from the actual aspect of dynasty 5 of ancient Egypt went into the land of Canaan. So you had Egyptians going to where the land of Israel was, and vice versa. You had Israelites and Canaanites themselves going into the land of Canaan, especially when you read in Dynasty 11 under Mentuhotep IV. So this is something we want to point for edification purposes. See the migration pattern? That was not an uncommon traveled place. Now, when you go, brothers and sisters, into a book entitled The Jew of Rome, written by L. Furtwängler. Now I'm gonna type in the thing when this video is loaded. It's a guy by the name of L. Furtwängler in his book entitled The Jew of Rome, and he stated that Titus went over the Sinai in 5 days. The book of Josephus, when you go into that record, it says that Titus crossed the desert very suddenly. So these are things we want to point out. You're not going to be able to show where Titus took the Israelites from the land of Israel into the land of Egypt by ship. You can show, however, in the book of Josephus, when they was already in Egypt and then shipped over for the triumph into Italy by ship. So this is something we want to sit there and talk about for edification purposes. Now, let's get on to the next slide into this particular regard. It says this, Isaiah chapter 30, verse 6, the matter of Zerah. Isaiah 30, verse 6, the English says this, the burden of the beasts of the south through the land of trouble and anguish, from whence come the lioness and the lion, the viper and the flying serpent. They carry their riches upon the shoulders of young asses, and their treasures upon the humps of camels, to a people that shall not profit them. Now, the Hebrew says this, Masa Bahamot Negeb, Ba'aret Zara, Zukwa, Labi, Walayish, Salakli, Mehem, Fe, Wasaraf, Me'o Faith, Yithu al ketef ayarim kelehem wa al da beshet gemalim ot rotam al lo yo ilu. Now, let's get to the point of this right here. The English in the red there says through the land of trouble. The Hebrew in the red there says ba'aret zara. The word zara means trouble. The word zara means trouble. So this becomes important when we get into the linguistics of what we're going to talk about. Okay, let's go on to the next slide. The matter of zar and the meaning of it. Here it is a little clearer for you. To besiege, zar, zur, to bind, to wrap, to form, to persecute. This right here comes from the most popular book, Hebrew dictionary, the Ben Yehuda one that everyone loves. And it says this: the word zar in zarim means adversary or distress. Isaiah chapter 30, verse 6 shows the word zara, translated as trouble. Zar means adversary or enemy as shown. The mem, which gives the M sound in Hebrew, shows a matter to be a noun from a verb. So in order to change from a verb to a noun in Hebrew, you prefix it by the Hebrew letter mem. This was discussed in Hebrew lesson number 5 on this channel. Next slide. Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. And the Lord shall bring thee back into Egypt in ships, by the way whereof I said unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall sell yourselves unto your enemies, for bondmen and bondwomen, and no man shall buy you. Now, let's look at this and explain the English and the claims made against us and the teachings that we have concerning this. One of the arguments given is this. First off, the King James Version says, you shall be sold unto your enemies. So, therefore, that's one thing we want to point out. The Hebrew says, you shall sell yourselves, which also means devote yourselves, which also means give yourselves. You see that same root word, hit makartim, that for those following the Hebrew there, you can see that in the book of 2 Kings 17, verse 17, when it says that Israel gave themselves over to mischief. They sold themselves over to mischief. They devoted themselves over to mischief. The root word for that in Hebrew is the word makar. Because see, I'm telling you, they swear the black Hebrew Israelites don't speak Hebrew. You got to be out your mind knowing good and well there's over 30,000 Israelites just in the United States. We're not talking about the West Indies and South America. Just talking about in the States, as our brothers and sisters and elders in the Caribbean call the States. Just in the States, there's been estimated to be over 30,000 people laying claim to being Israelites. So if such is the case, you must be out your mind and think somebody did not get into the Hebrew. All right, because see, like it says of Esau, the pride of your heart have beguiled you. You thought somebody didn't get into something worth your while. Okay, now, the other argument given is, when did the people sell themselves? See, it says, what? By the way where I said unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. And there you shall sell yourselves. Meaning that in this Egypt, you will sell yourselves. Not while you're on the ship, you're selling yourself. It says, and there. So what is there? There is, we're going to expound upon, is the Mizraim. We already went over this before and other teachings, but we want to sit there and have this to be noted so that way we can let it be known in the rebuke what we're talking about. All right, so now let's look at this. It says this here. Whereof I said unto thee, thou shalt see it no more again. So many take from that part, then go to Deuteronomy 17, verse 16, all right, when it says see, it says you was never supposed to see that again. The see not that again, brothers and sisters, is talking about the captivity. Because if you don't understand what Mizraim means, you're off and trying to expound upon it. That's why it's good to get understanding purposes. Because the people who don't think the Hebrew is important, I got to ask you, when you read about Moses' father-in-law named Reuel, and then you read about Moses' father-in-law named Jethro, if you don't know Hebrew, they're going to say the Bible contradicts itself. One is named Reuel, the other is Jethro. But if you don't know that Jethro was a title, meaning his excellence or his majesty, from yeter, from yatra, which means to be of excellence, which means to be of renown. If you don't get that in the Hebrew, you off trying to expound upon it. That's why we have Hebrew teachers. Blessed be the Most High. So this is something we want to get into for edification purposes. So when it says you shall see it no more again, that see it again is talking about the captivity that you done experienced again. Remember, they were told to have the what? Bread of affliction called the lechem oni. Also said to be the unleavened bread. They was told to have what? The bitter herbs. So if Israel were to break the laws, the statutes, commandments of the Most High, you will be going off and will be made to serve your enemies in the land that's not yours. See, because we, the Hebrew Israelites, don't say that Egypt is America. Because see, America by name did not exist back then. Egypt by name did not exist when Moses wrote down Deuteronomy 28. And then when Ezra rewrote the Tanakh. The word Egypt did not exist then. So you may want to get into the linguistics of the people at that time to glean an understanding of what they was talking about for edification purposes. You understand? For instance, when the European man named a place Alabama, that's not the same meaning. The state of Alabama, that was an actual tribe called Alabama in the modern state of Texas. In the modern state of Texas, there was a native tribe called Alabama. They did not have the same meaning for the same place that the European called it. This is why we want to get into these kind of matters. All right, so let's go, if we will, brothers and sisters, and read the Hebrew aspect there. All right. Oh, and when it says that no man shall buy you, we're going to expound upon that. Weheshib kaya mizrayim ba'aniyot ba'derek asha amorati laka lo tosif o lirota wahit makar tem sham lo ebeka la abadin walish fakot wa en kone weheshib ka heshib meaning to cause to go back. Tosif from the Hebrew root word hesif, which means to add or to increase. Lirota. The second line, remember, Hebrews always read from right to left. That hey that has the dot in it shows it to be whatever that is feminine. That feminine is the Eretz Zara. You understand, like the land of trouble? Because in Hebrew, land is considered feminine. Wahit makartem, and you shall devote yourselves, sham, there. Not while you're in transportation to this land in the ships. It says there, meaning when you get in that place, la abadim, for man, to your enemies. Lo ibeka, to your enemies, la abadim. For men servants, walis fakot, for female servants, wa en quone. Next slide. The explanation of the verbs. Heshib, the word heshib from shab. Shab means en route to return. The word heshib means to restore. Source, 201 Hebrew verbs by Hilkin. Tosif, the word tosif from yasaf. Yasaf means en route to add. The word tosif means to add or to increase. Source, 201 verbs. So what was supposed to not happen was the captivity, the bondage, was not supposed to be added to the house of Israel for them to see it. But if Israel broke the law, statutes, and commandments, which the Jewish man says they never done, we admit that our ancestors went against the laws of the Most High. Or whoever, I don't really know, no offense intended, who Jewish people are calling upon when they say Hashem, because all Hashem means is the name. Hashem, the name. The name of who? Is it the name of the Creator? Is it the name of Samael, as some may say? The name of Belial, as some may say? The name of Raziel, that some talk about? Which name are you talking about? You understand? So this is something we want to sit there and get into for edification purposes. Now, it says the word tosif from Yasaf. Yasaf means en route to add. So let's go on to the next part. The explanation of the verbs, part 2. Lir'ot, lir'ota, lir'ot, the infinitive meaning to see, coming from the root word ra'ah, lir'ota, to see it or to see her. What is it? It is the captivity. So in Deuteronomy 28, verse 68, we see the word lir'ota, hit makartem. a verb of the hipael stem, meaning to sell oneself or to devote oneself. Source 501 Hebrew verbs. The root of such word is the word makar, meaning to sell. So you have to sell, to be sold, to sell oneself, and so forth. So that goes into the stems of the Hebrew verbs for edification purposes, brothers and sisters. All right. Let's go on. The explanation of the verbs, part 3, as we said, we're going to get into when it says, and no man shall buy you, quone, seen in Deuteronomy 28, verse 68. Do you know there's people who attempted to, when I spoke on this before in other videos, have actually, without hearing the whole video, sat there and said that I implied all that I said, that the word quana and root means something I did not say it meant. They said that I was implying that the word quana means to save. The word quana doesn't mean save. I never said that. But when you already have your spirit, I don't like these black people saying they're the Israelites, you're going to start hearing things that was never said. I never said the word quana meant save. The Hebrew root word for save is the word zeal. Hey, Zadeh, Yod, Lamed, or the word Yasha, Yod, Shin, Ayin. The word quana, in which you get the word quone, does not mean save. So before the people begin to sit there and talk on a matter, listen to a whole presentation first. If you disagree with it, okay, stop listening to it and move on. But don't comment without listening to the whole thing, please. Because then your arrogance is not going to allow you to sit there and say, I stand corrected. Your arrogance in your hardened heart, like the Pharaoh's heart was hardened in Egypt, is going to say, well, what's the point of listening to the whole thing if I already disagree with it? That means you got too much time on your hands to spend so much time listening to what you disagree with. I'm using the time now, blessed be the Most High, because I agree with what I'm teaching. See? So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Quone from the root quana, meaning to buy. Many say the Israelites are incorrect when we say that quana also means to redeem, citing that Gaal and Pada means to redeem. Yet we see an example in Nehemiah cited in my book also. Now, the book I'm talking about is the book Egypt Took in Writing. You can get online. All right. And it says this in the book of Nehemiah, chapter 5. And I said unto them, we, after our ability, have redeemed our brethren, the Jews, that sold themselves unto the heathen. And would ye nevertheless sell your brethren? And should they sell themselves unto us? Then held they their peace and found never a word. And I'm very comfortable stating that the word Jews that you see there should be Judites and not Jew. I have no problem stating that. All right. The Hebrew says this. Wa obra lahem anachnu kwaninu et achenu hayhudim hanim karim lagoyim kadei banu wagam atem tim keru et achekem wanim keru lanu wayak karishu walo masu dabar. Now the bold type part that you see there says anachnu kwaninu, which means we have redeemed. Anachnu is the pronoun. Kwaninu is the conjugation of the root word quana in the past tense. First person plural, we. Anachnu kwaninu, for parsing for those who love to parse. All right, in that particular regard. And it's translated as redeemed. So this is why we say what we say in that particular regard. That Deuteronomy 28, when it says in quone, also means and there's no redeemer, because there's none that's delivering us but the Most High out of this. Next slide. Jeremiah chapter 21, verse 4, in the matter of Zarim. Let's read the Hebrew first. Ko amar ya Elohei Yisrael, hini meseb et kelei hamil kama asher beyedkem, asher atem nim nilchamu bam, et melek babel wa et kakazdim, hazarim alekem, mekutz lachoma, wa asafti otam el tok ha'ir hazot. Thus saith the Lord, the God of Israel, behold, I will turn back the weapons of war that are in your hands, wherever you fight against the king of Babylon and against the Chaldeans that besiege you without the walls, and I will gather them into the midst of this city. The point in all of that is this. You see right there, Hazarim, bold type, and then it says that besiege, bold type. Zar means besiege. Zarim is the plural, also meaning besiege. So now, ha in front of it means that which besiege. Because in Hebrew, when you're dealing with the aspect of verbs in the present tense, you would say something such as, Hu ha'ish ha'omed po. He is the man that stands here. You would not say in Hebrew, Hu ha'ish asher omed po. The word asher, meaning which or that, when you put it in the present tense form in Hebrew, is not said as asher, it's said as the word ha. That's why you see hazarim for those who are Hebrew linguists in this particular regard. So once again, in Hebrew, if I am saying the sentence in the English, he is the man that stands here, the correct way in Hebrew of saying that is this. Hu ha'ish ha'omed po. He is the man that stands, which stands here. I will not correctly say in Hebrew, Hu ha'ish asher omed po. You only use the word asher, meaning for that or which, when you're dealing with the future tense or the past tense. That's some Hebrew edification for you. Now, to get back into this, it says what? Hazarim, which besiege Alekem. You all. Hakasdim, the Chaldeans, plural. Hazarim. Kasdim, Zarim, get it? Rhyming, the pluralization in that particular regard. So, if we see that that word Zarim is translated into the word besiege, let's go back, brothers and sisters, and that's from the book of Jeremiah. Let's go back to this slide here. Zar, to besiege, to bind, to wrap. Source decided. Brothers and sisters, let's go to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 44, verse 1 through verse 2, so we can gain some understanding of what we're talking about. Because we got to remember the stance that we're talking of, it didn't close out. All right? Jeremiah chapter 44, and starting in verse 1. The word that came to Jeremiah concerning all the Jews, the Yehudim, the Judites, that dwelt in the land of Egypt, that dwelt at Migdol, and at Tapanhes, and at Noph, and in the country of Patros, saying, Thus saith the Lord of hosts, the God of Israel, you have seen all the evil that I have brought upon Jerusalem and upon all the cities of Judah. And behold, this day they are a desolation, and no man dwelleth therein. So the Jewish man saying, We've always kept the laws of Hashem, the Ashkenazi, the Sephardi, the Mizrahi, the Kushi, and all the other ones, the Jews. Y'all treat the so-called Falashas like garbage. They ain't your friends. You understand? They not your kaverim. You understand? So this is something we want to point out for edification purposes. Jeremiah, we read right here, dates to the 6th century BCE. Israelites was already living in Egypt. This is what we're showing on the map right here. Elephantine, Egypt. Patros in Hebrew is Patros. In Egyptian, it's Pit Teret. All right? And here, Elephantine is in southern Egypt by like the first area of the first cataract. Colony of Jewish, which we understand is Israel, merchants in the Persian service. So if they was already inside of Egypt in the time of Jeremiah in the 6th century BCE, we can see that Israelites was already in Egypt before the timing of the Greek Empire under Alexander. This becomes important because these people in Elephantine Egypt had what you call the Passover papyrus, which dates to the era of the 5th century BCE. The Septuagint, on the other hand, dates to the era of the 3rd century BCE. So how do you have Israelites being recorded, keeping the holy days, and some of the Israelites being wicked inside of southern Egypt if we supposedly only got our stuff from the Septuagint? They really thought somebody didn't put pieces together. Brothers and sisters, what we're presenting, brothers and sisters, may have to be listened to again. Write down Jews at Elephantine, Israelites in Elephantine Island in the era of the Persian. era and look that up. Look up Sanballat in the book of Nehemiah. Look up the Elephantine Papyri. Look up the Passover Papyrus, brothers and sisters. Look up the names that we read of in the book of Jeremiah 44. Look up the fact that it says in Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 45, that it says, all these curses shall come upon thee, it shall pursue and overtake thee. Read, brothers and sisters, the book of Daniel chapter 9, when Daniel, during the era of the Persian Empire, said the curse in the law of Moses is poured upon the house of Israel. So we want that to be noted. See, Jewish man, keeping the ways of who you say as Hashem does not make you Israel. The Most High said in Deuteronomy 28, verse 46, that it shall be upon you and upon your seed for a sign. Zerah is the same word for semen. That's a physical thing. And then it also says oat, which means sign. So if you can't show in your history the signs of those curses that you see there, 9 times and a half out of 10, you're not Israel. Jehovah's Witnesses talking about spiritual Israel. No. The Most High through the prophet Ezekiel in the 6th century BCE said Israel needs a new spirit. Make yourself a new heart. The true physical house of Israel needs a new spirit. But Christianity can only survive. Judaism can only survive if the true house of Israel is ignorant. I want that to be noted for edification purposes. Let's go to the book of Hosea, chapter 4, verse 8. Not verse 6, like many may go to yet. Then let's go to Hosea, who prophesied even before Isaiah, if you know the biblical timeline. All right? In Hosea chapter 4, verse 8, for edification purposes, it says this: they feed on the sin of my people and set their heart on their iniquity. What does it say? Hosea 4, verse 8. Hallelujah. They feed on the sin of my people and set their heart on their iniquity. Brothers and sisters, what is it being stated? They are the nations. They feed. That is to say, they are being fed. They eat on the sin of the house of Israel. By our people living a wicked life. It's how the nations eat. That's how they thrive. That's how they survive. Even in the street terminology, yo, we eating. Means what? You're getting it. Some people refer to it as guap. Some people refer to it as prestige. Some people refer to it as clout. But these nations get their prestige, their clout, they eat, they get their guap, if you want to use that terminology, by us doing wrong. By us not wanting to keep the Shabbat. By us not wanting to keep the holy days. By us not honoring our mother and our father. By us not taking care of our children. Because just as much as important to honor your parents, so does the Torah tell you you're supposed to be there for your children. They thrive on that. They thrive, believe it or not, even economically, when we have to sit there and go through the child support. They eat off of that. You understand? When we do not love one another, when we are okay not protecting our sisters, when our sisters are okay cursing the brothers out in the street, when they are okay not taking care of their children, like it says in Lamentations. Will a Jewish man claim that part? When it says the babes thirst and the daughter of Zion is cool, even the jackal in the wilderness feeds their children, but not the daughters of Zion. It tells you that in Lamentations. Do you agree with that in your history, Jewish man? Or can you go right, not to pick a place, but just to be candid, right to the South Bronx and sit there and see that little, with your little blip, 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 over here just like your father? Whoa, it's like that? Yeah, it's like that. See, y'all living too well to go through those curses of the house of Israel. Yet, you're not living so well, Jewish man, to where you're not even under the blessings that the Most High spoke about. Because see, Yah said he will give you a blessing that you cannot contain. Hashem did not say anything. Yah, on the other hand, said that he will give you a blessing that you cannot contain. The Jewish man is not even living in that. He's not living in peace in the land of Israel. They're sitting up there with signs, and Netanyahu sitting up there talking about, we want the black people out. The black people is a thorn in their side. You're not in peace in the land of Israel. That portion is not you in Jeremiah. So we can see why you want to deal with the so-called Noah laws. We can see why you up there teaching it is okay to sit there and have sex with your niece. There is something wrong with these people, brothers and sisters. Yes, and believe it or not, and this is a sad case. The Most High said, you're not supposed to sit there and drink or eat blood. These people have a custom called Maziza Bape, and they will sit there and put a penis of the baby inside their mouth and suck the blood out. There are babies who got herpes from such. You can look this up. I'm not making this up. There are little babies that sat there and got herpes because during the circumcision, the Jewish man sat there and put the baby's penis inside of his mouth and sucked the blood out. That is against the laws of the Most High God, severely. You understand? There are babies who got herpes. Do you realize they say herpes is incurable? This is not something making up. These are the people you want to follow. And let's sit there and ask this question here. Going back to Hosea chapter 4, verse 6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge, because thou hast rejected knowledge. I will also reject thee, that thou shalt be no priest to me, seeing thou hast forgotten the Torah of your power. I will also forget your children. So every claim that the Jewish people make about them being the people and they've always kept the ways of Hashem. Hosea spoke about Israel going off. Amos spoke about Israel going off. Micah spoke about Israel going off. Jeremiah spoke about Israel going off. Jeremiah cited Micah. Daniel spoke about Israel going off. Samuel spoke about Israel going off. You know, Israel don't get a lot of props or prestige inside the scriptures. It's not like the love song where, you know, we just want to make it sound good for the kids. No. It tells you, brothers and sisters, that in the book of Amos, that the children of Israel, that they was selling the needy for a pair of shoes. And that a man and his son was being sexually active with the same woman. That's against the law of the Most High. See, it's not to be redundant, but if you're sitting up there, brothers and sisters, and you're sitting up there saying and knowing good and well, since the days of Jeremiah and even before Jeremiah, that the Israelites was already scattering into places in Africa, but you think the bulk and the majority went to Europe and became Jewish, you're off. The fact they call themselves Ashkenazi, they're letting you know something. Ashkenaz is a son of Japheth. It's a descendant of Japheth. Japheth and Shem are two different things, two different peoples. It said the Most High, well, it says in the English in mistranslation, God enlarged Japheth and he shall dwell in the tent of Shem. The Hebrew says, Yaf Elohim le-Yefet. The Most High enticed Japheth and he will dwell in the tent of Shem. Why they never seem to want to sit there and talk about that, it seems. And let's go, if you will, brothers and sisters, to Ezekiel, the 36th chapter, for edification purposes before we close out. Ezekiel chapter 36. All right? Ezekiel chapter 36, and we're going to start in verse 1. All right? And thou, son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, and say, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of Yah. Thus saith Yah Elohim, because the enemies have said against you, aha, even the high places are ours in possession. Therefore prophesy and say, thus saith Yah Elohim, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the rest of the nations, and you are taken up in the lips of talkers and the evil report of the people. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear ye the word of Yah Elohim. Thus saith Yah Elohim, to the mountains, into the hills, into the streams, into the valleys, to the desolate wastes, into the cities that are forsaken. which are become a prey and derision to the residue of the nations that are round about. What are these nations that are round about that took the land of Israel, as it says in the lips of talkers? What is Ezekiel 36 talking about? Because see, they're not going to expound upon that because they're the talkers. They're the ones with the Balfour Declaration. They're the ones with Theodore Herzl and the Zionist movement. You understand? That's why they're not going to go into Ezekiel 36. So these are just things we want to talk about for edification purposes. You're not fulfilling the prophecy. Our people fulfilled the prophecy of the curses. Our goal is to return back to the Most High. We don't want to have to keep on making a video against the Jewish man, against Christianity, again and again and again and again. It's time for Israel to make stances for ourselves. That's the matter. See, in Judaism, they say you put a fence around the law. We say different. You put a fence around yourself to keep the law. The law is already perfect. But in Judaism, they say you put a fence around the law. We don't put fences around the law. The law is already supposed to be in your heart. So you put a fence around yourself to keep the law there. See, you got it twisted. So, brothers and sisters, always remember, in closing out, we are a thorn in their side. We are a problem to them. They watch us on Shabbat when we online, regardless of whatever camp you're in. They watch us when we do teachings outside of Shabbat. They actually, in one case, brothers and sisters, went into a camp and started taking pictures and wanted to interview the people and see, what are y'all about? You understand? But we can't sit there and sell out like that. You understand? We're not going to give over into the Zionist movement. We're not pro-Zionist and we're not pro-Palestinian, because that's part of the residue of the nations that took the land of Israel in the lips of talkers. That's our land. Why did you say this is the capital? Donald Trump is doing this. Ben Yahoo. No, y'all still talking about the land that doesn't belong to you all, because Israel is dealing with Leviticus 26. See, our solution is to return back to the Most High. The 7 Noahide laws that Judaism gives the black man does not tell you to return back to the Most High. You understand? This is something we want to point out for edification purposes. All right? So, I hope it was noted and understood historically, linguistically, that many people who attempt to talk about us in Deuteronomy 28, brothers and sisters, they're speaking out of emotion and not thought. Not linguistics, not historically. And they're trolls. Look in their channels and see what produce they have even on their YouTube things. Nothing. You took the time to create a fake YouTube channel. Never show your face. Never give no info of self. Your name, nothing of that sort. And you took the time to try to talk against the Israelites when we were praising the Most High. May y'all have mercy on your soul. Hallelujah! Malkenu, Moshienu, Adonai Atahu, Ein Shaweh Lakaba Shamayim Oba Aretz, Hosha, Wahezilna, Et Bene Israel Makaz Arenu, Ki Ata, Rak, Hamoshia Bakayenu, Atahu, Wa Ein Shaweh Laka, Bashamayim Oba Aretz, Ein Yoshem Al Kis Eka Mil Baderka, Yehovah Eloheinu, We Elohe Abotenu, Shublanu, Et Debareka Elibotenu, Shublanu, Et Safatenu, Shublanu, Et Diburnu, Shublanu et emotenu wa abotenu. Benenu ubnotenu. Akenu wa akyotenu. Anshenu. Unshenu. Yahweh. Meleka olam bebakusha. Titain ruach neima lokol. Hakole ba'amka Yisrael. Ki yeshlanu. Makala gadola. U makot gedolot. Anaknu huknu. Yehovah Elohe Yisrael. Tir'eh anaknu meredim. Wagam kain enenu ma'alot. Yehovah Eloheinu. We Elohe abotenu. Shublanu et hamul kabakayenu. Shublanu bebakwasha et shalom el libotenu. Tiena imna sizi por wagam et sarnatan el. With tikazek bebakwasha et haseder bamachane bene ha Elohim. With tiena bebakwasha et nasi natan el ben zebulun. Wagam kain tibarekna et maase akil. Nasi yashub el be'eretz Goshen. Yehovah melech ha'olam. Shub lanu bebakusha. Et eretz. Et gibul. Et molad bebakusha Yehovah zebaot. Ta'ase beyamenu. We'im lo bimenu. Ase bebakusha. Bime benenu. Hallelujah. Amen.